An island world in the vast Pacific, born from fire, shaped by nature's mightiest forces. A land of astonishing beauty and astounding creatures. Creatures which are sometimes blessed by the island's abundance, and at other times must fight for resources. Only those who can adapt can make it here. The marine iguana, a fierce-looking resident of the Galapagos Islands. When its ancestors arrived here, they were met with an equally frightening sight. The first glimpse of the islands is anything but inviting. Many of the Galapagos dwellers didn't come here by choice. Most are castaways. Tossed here by storms and strong currents. Saved by this rocky tip of an underwater volcano in the middle of the Pacific. The Galapagos Islands lie around 600 miles off the South American coast, almost on the equator. It's an archipelago made up of 13 main islands and hundreds of small rocks and isles. It lies at the point where two mighty ocean currents converge. The Humboldt Current comes up from the Antarctic. Its ice-cold stream dominates the islands for half the year. During the other 6 months, the Panama Current moves in from Central America, tropical and warm. This current brought the ancestors of the marine iguana to the Galapagos Islands from the mainland millions of years ago. Despite the odds, the mini dragons became an unlikely model for success. The prehistoric-looking creatures live only here. On Fernandina Island, they form the biggest colonies. But their road to becoming super lizards has been rocky. Their ancestors first had to learn where to find food. These barren volcanic islands had no plants. The lizards had to think outside the rocks. Only underwater could they find something to eat. Algae. The marine iguana learned how to hold its breath for up to 30 minutes and dive for it. No other lizard can do this. But now the Panama Current is stirring up trouble. The iguanas eat only green algae, and they've overgrazed. The warm current blocks the denser cold water from bringing crucial minerals and nutrients up from the ocean depths. It turns the garden into an underwater desert. The iguanas aren't the only ones in this Panama predicament. Almost all the inhabitants suffer through this lean season. Those who can migrate. Those who stay have learned to cope. They don't depend on algae, but other microorganisms. For the next months, a rainbow of tropical fish adds local color to the reef. The Panama Current's reach doesn't stop at the shoreline. It plants a wet kiss on the face of the islands. The barren rocks begin to bloom. To the delight of the Galapagos carpenter bees. Even the black, lava-clad slopes turn green. And in the highlands, the forests soak up the moisture as if to never let it go. The Galapagos giant tortoise knows that once the Humboldt current comes, this abundance will end. Until that day, there's only one thing to do: eat like crazy. While the animals on the island enjoy this bounty, the sea dwellers fight for their lives. The marine iguana, scrambling over the rocks to find his meager meal, must battle against the rising current. He uses all his strength just to stay in place as the water surges around him. He must eat. But he's almost spending more energy fighting the tide than he gets from his food. The search for algae is crucial, but so is staying alive. His strength is failing, and he needs to come up for air. Not as easy as it sounds. Fighting the surf takes every last ounce of effort. He's one of the lucky ones. In life's relentless contest, many marine iguanas lose to the Panama Current. This survivor needs to rest. But the hot, humid current has another torment in store. Flies. They zero in on the iguana's moist scales. They're relentless. But the marine iguanas have an ally. The Galapagos lava lizard. Another castaway that made good here. Flies are its favorite dish, and worth the work. The Panama Current turns the island's fly season into a tropical paradise for the lava lizards. But paradise doesn't last. The Panama Current has started to weaken, making room for the colder Humboldt Current to build. And along with it comes a tropical tourist. The green turtle. An algae eater as well. She has traveled over 600 miles to dine here. But it's a bit too early. The only algae here is on her shell. It's no more than fuzz, but it makes the turtle very popular with the razor surgeonfish. The turtles benefit too. Too much algae causes drag. Once the surgeonfish have mowed the lawn, another specialist steps in. King angelfish come to gobble up parasites and small crustaceans that cannot hide anymore among the stripped down algae. The turtle's stop at the beauty salon makes a gracious welcome to the Galapagos Islands. It would be even better if the water weren't so cold. Despite the Panama Current's warm water, competing currents and winds keep the ocean around the Galapagos cooler than anywhere else on the equator. The tropical turtle faces a dilemma. Turtles love warm water, but their food grows where it's cold. Until dinner's served, the turtle wants to warm up. She ends her long annual journey at a curious place near the shore of Fernandina Island. The mangrove is one of the few plants to thrive in salt water. Its roots draw nutrients from the water and filter up to 90% of the salt. But that's not what appeals to the chilly turtle, taking a break from the high seas. The shallow pools between the mangroves are warmer than the open ocean. And sea turtles find that hard to resist. Once they get there, they aren't picky. In their hypothermic state, many just sink to the bottom and rest. Those who still have energy look for a grotto under the roots. Or just lean against them. The main thing is to get warm. They camp out, waiting for the Galapagos algae to grow, so they can get first crack at it. The mangrove forest provides sanctuary from the sharp and hostile volcanic rocks. And where it reaches the ocean, a sharp-eyed predator is on the hunt. The Galapagos lava heron. The shorebird usually sticks to the mangroves, though sometimes he likes to step out for a little variety. Water doesn't seem to be his element. He avoids getting wet and looks for other prey. The crabs look good today. The red adults have nothing to fear. But it's a different story for the tender young ones. Against the rocks, they're hard to spot, as long as they don't move. Game on. They're delicious, shells and all. Over the steep cliffs of Hispaniola Island, a seasonal visitor casts a long shadow. The waved albatross, the island's largest bird. With a wingspan of more than 8 feet. Once a year, these graceful gliders converge off the coast of the secluded island, about the size of Rochester, New York. The oldest of the Galapagos Islands will become the meeting place for 20,000 albatrosses in the coming weeks. Like his brethren, this male has come to raise his young. He spent 6 months gliding without touching solid ground. His leg muscles aren't what they used to be, so landing's the tricky part. Walking takes some getting used to. Normally, the males come to Hispaniola well before the females. He's late. Most of the couples have already found one another. Albatrosses mate for life, up to 30 years, and he knows his partner is waiting. But where is she? The latecomer's not getting much sympathy. But he persists. He combs the entire colony. Has something happened to her? A big change is coming to the Galapagos Islands. As the Humboldt Current gathers more strength. Its chilly fingers reach into the mangrove forest and tap the sea turtle into action. She spent the last few weeks munching mangrove roots. Now, the ocean calls. The first of the delicate algae starts to grow among the coral. It thrives here like almost nowhere else in the tropical Pacific. Thanks to the cool Humboldt Current. The luscious cold buffet motivates the turtle to make an exhausting journey. It's worth braving the shivering temperatures. The springtime arrival of the Humboldt Current also arouses another kind of appetite. This young blue-footed booby has come to Hispaniola looking for a mate. It's his first time. He's got just what it takes to impress the ladies. Blue feet. The bluer they are, the fitter he is. But he's come to the wrong place. Only bachelors here, no females. With one exception. She's right in front of him, eyeing him with her large pupils. Her mate's also got his eye on him, and for good reason. Unlike albatrosses, boobies aren't loyal. The bachelor starts his seduction. It's working. She can't stop looking at his sexy blue feet. Her partner's only seeing red. They argue. And the bachelor makes his bold move. But gets rebuffed. Well, maybe next time. The male albatross is still looking for his mate. At last, he finds her. So late in the season, will they have enough time to raise a chick? Some of their fellow albatrosses already have hatchlings. From egg to chick takes about 2 months. They'll take turns caring for the chick and hunting. Unlike other seabirds, albatrosses fish far out on the ocean and are often away for weeks. As time passes, the partner left behind gets restless and concerned. They sit on their egg without anyone to take over the shift. As days turn to weeks, they tire of wondering if their spouse will ever return. Some lose all hope. And that is precisely what this fellow's been waiting for. Galapagos mockingbirds have learned that the Humboldt Current brings the albatrosses, and albatrosses bring fresh eggs. The situation is serious for the straggling pair. Not only are they behind schedule, but the Galapagos mockingbirds are getting more bold. While the albatrosses try to defend their spot on the island, off the coast, the Humboldt Current brings in another wave of visitors. The scalloped hammerhead. The largest congregation of these sharks in the world. They've come to mate. By the hundreds, females gather in the middle of the group, while the males stay on the edges. No one knows why they segregate like this. But after they mate, and before they disperse, there's one more thing to do. They head to nearby reefs to clean up. The females have small wounds around their gills. Love bites, made by the males getting a grip during their encounter. The wounds need cleansing. Once again, the tropical fish take the job. The sharks tilt their bodies to show they're ready. But there are simply too many sharks to handle. The barberfish don't know where to start. To attract attention, a hammerhead needs a gimmick. Perhaps a shark shimmy will do the trick. Despite the fancy fin work, only a few lucky sharks get selected. The barberfish run a very exclusive spa, and the hammerheads need to wait their turn. The young booby also needs to be patient. Still no females in sight. He's been scanning the sky for days and practicing his best moves. At last, here's his chance. better not blow it. First, the wings. And don't forget the feet. She's underwhelmed. Maybe a gift will warm her heart. She's holding out for something better. She is accepted. The young booby almost can't believe it. Mission accomplished. He'll become a father. The late starting albatross pair has mated too. After weeks of waiting, he urgently needs to fish. No time for romantic goodbyes. She hides the precious egg under her plumage and will keep a careful watch on it, because the mockingbirds certainly are. That was close. As she waits for her partner, out in the ocean, a drastic sea change. The Humboldt current is back in full force. The water is murkier now. Food is instantly everywhere, courtesy of the cold water. Bringing with it schools of fish. All of a sudden, the ocean off the Galapagos shimmers with life. The chilly, nutrient-rich water feeds the multitudes. The marine iguana is back in business. No more death-defying dives into the surf just to get a bite of lunch. But just because their bellies are full doesn't mean their troubles are over. For the males, feeding leads to fighting. Like sumo wrestlers, they test their strength in the ring. The winner gains a little turf and the right to mate. At the end of round one, it's a tie. They take a break between rounds. Marine iguanas can't breathe while fighting. The action heats up as another contender enters the ring. This is his big break. But he needs to separate the wranglers in order to join the fight. The bantamweight brawler doesn't have what it takes. The others are just too strong. He throws in the towel. Prosperity has presented new challenges for the blue-footed boobies too. Their population has nearly doubled. The young are thriving. Some have only just hatched, while others test their wings for the first flight. At last, their parents arrive with their lunch. These hungry chicks can hardly wait. But here comes trouble. Magnificent frigate birds, pirates of the air. Awkward on land and sea, these aggressive, agile flyers rarely fish for themselves. So frigate birds prefer to steal. And there's nothing the blue-footed boobies can do about it. Except catch more fish in the generous Humboldt current. The albatrosses also suffer. With all the food thieves on the island, it's a wonder the chicks get anything to eat at all. In a few weeks, they'll be able to fly, but only if they eat heartily now. On Hispaniola, the albatross parents have pesky mockingbirds to contend with. These avian annoyers are like ants at a picnic, only hungrier and more aggressive. They rely almost completely on the albatrosses for their food. But in a few weeks, the mockingbirds will have to fend for themselves. The albatrosses will take to the air and spend the next 6 months out in the ocean. With one exception. The chronically late male albatross is finally back. He was out hunting for days and hasn't seen his partner. Leaving her to protect their egg from the onslaught of mockingbirds. All their efforts have paid off. They're among the lucky ones, the inhabitants that have learned to survive here. On the Galapagos Islands, life ebbs and flows in the crossroads of relentless ocean currents. Everything here is subject to their whim. Energized by their power. Tuned to their vibrations. This land of castaways and seasonal visitors favors the resourceful. It rewards the ones who can thrive by surrendering to, and sometimes challenging, the moody tide. That's life on the Galapagos, an enchanted world under the spell of the ocean currents. An island world in the vast Pacific, a land of extreme contrasts. Hellishly hostile in some parts, idyllic in others. Where survival depends on wits, guts, and a fair degree of luck. Cut off from the rest of the world, life evolves differently here. thriving or struggling in this temperamental paradise. A volcanic landscape that looks like the surface of the moon. It wasn't easy for life to colonize it. And yet somehow, it did. Mighty ocean currents roll thousands of miles toward the Galapagos Islands, often carrying some curious cargo. That's what happened to the ancestors of the Galapagos penguin. The Humboldt current washed them here, all the way from Antarctica. Imagine their surprise, black lava instead of white snow. They had a lot to learn. Lesson 1. Rocks can be as slick as ice, but not so forgiving. The Galapagos penguins are the only penguins that can survive at this latitude. The Galapagos Islands lie around 600 miles off the coast of South America, virtually on the equator. You would think the ocean would be very warm here. But for 6 months of the year, the ice-cold Humboldt current surges up from Antarctica and bathes the islands. Once upon a time, it brought the penguins, and it still keeps them alive here. They're in good company. The ancestors of these baby fur seals were also delivered by the current. Life here isn't as heavenly as it looks. Even though they've been here for millions of years, they don't actually belong here, and that's about to get painfully obvious. The heat's too hellish to bear. So they hide beneath the lava sheets. Fur seals may look no different from other seals. But their much thicker fur is suited for sub-zero temperatures. Here, at the equator, they're way overdressed. So they sleep the day away, waiting for the cool of the evening to go hunting. They're stuck working the night shift. Conditions on the Galapagos can be harsh, even for seasoned natives. The island's largest reptile braces himself for the coming crisis: the Galapagos giant tortoise. This time of year, the cold waters do him no favors, altering the weather. On Santa Cruz Island, not a drop of rain from July to December. This very old male, a veteran of these hard times, can barely find anything to eat here. While he can go for prolonged periods without food, 6 months of no rain will push him past his limit. To avoid starvation, he needs to act fast, something tortoises aren't known for. He sets out on an exhausting journey. As if by a secret signal, more tortoises join him on their annual migration. Over the millennia, they've beaten paths through the vegetation. But it never gets any easier. Their heavy, meter-wide shells add to the journey's burden. Slow and steady wins the race, keeping one step ahead of the coming drought. There's no other way to heave several hundred pounds over a tree trunk. Migrating for days on end requires huge effort. And not all of them make it. Undeterred, the old male keeps going. Where will his journey take him? Now, the dry season has huge swathes of the islands firmly in its infernal grip. No rain, no gain. Just one plant has the power to shrug it off. The mangrove. Dangling its feet into the salty sea, it thrives and forms lagoons. Mangroves have evolved to take what they need from the ocean. Drinking it in with salt-filtering roots. And giving Galapagos animals a rare and generous place of shelter. It's the nursery ground for fish. And the dining table of the lava heron. He succeeds only when the tiny fish are densely packed. He's not the only hunter here. Something strange lurks just below the surface. Penguins. An unusual sight among the tropical mangroves. The penguins, exiled from Antarctica, had to adjust. The warmer water shrank these tuxedos. Today, they're no bigger than ducks. Learning to hunt here remains a challenge. The heron doesn't appreciate these polar castaways competing for his meal. The heron needn't worry. They're not very good at it. The speedy fish keep darting among the mangrove roots. One of the penguins tries to drive them to the center of the lagoon. It works. Until it doesn't. Those tantalizing little fish are just too fast. The heron couldn't be happier. The commotion corralled his prey right where he wanted it. Evolution has pushed these penguins to the very limit of their survival. Conditions are so extreme that fewer than 500 remain. Another of the Galapagos' flightless birds isn't faring much better. In fact, it wasn't flightless until it came to this island. By picking this paradise, the Galapagos cormorant found itself grounded for life. Over the generations, its body grew, while its plumage plummeted. Today, at 3 feet tall, he's the biggest cormorant on Earth, at least up and down, not side to side. So, unlike most other cormorants that deftly fish from the skies, the Galapagos cormorant has to wing it. With food nearby, he doesn't need to travel. He fishes right from his doorstep. If only he didn't have to walk everywhere. While evolution took away the cormorant's flight suit, it gave him the perfect diving gear. Its small wings reduce drag in the water, and its giant feet work like an outboard motor. The cormorant's enormous size lets it dive deeper and for longer than any other seabird. As hard as he tries, it doesn't seem to be his day. After a short rest, he'll try again. The Galapagos Islands provide him with all he needs to survive, courtesy of his humble servant, the Humboldt Current. Not only the cormorants, all seabirds benefit from the cold flow. Even albatrosses, who can go practically anywhere, travel thousands of miles to come here. The nutritious waters infuse the Galapagos with life. Isolated in the middle of the Pacific, the island oasis has one of the largest populations of fish in the world. It's both a haven and a hunting ground. Microorganisms attract small fish. And then come the big fish. And then even bigger fish. Hammerhead sharks in huge schools spend their honeymoon here. And even the biggest fish on the planet, the whale shark, drops by to say hello. The Humboldt Current is the engine that drives all marine life. While it brings paradise to the sea, it can also bring hell on earth for some island residents. The island of Plaza is a habitat for the hardy. Even though the undemanding land iguanas have no predators, they get pushed to their limits here. In this hellish, dry season, even their main source of food presents a devilish challenge. The prickly pear's thick-skinned leaves are full of water. Easy pickings for a small finch, an angel in disguise. For the iguanas, unreachable. They're waiting for a miracle. Bellies empty, they sit and watch the cactus finches having their fill of the forbidden fruit. It's almost too much to bear. Then their prayers are answered. Salvation at last. But the single leaf won't feed them all. The competition brings out their worst. Some forget about the food and pick fights instead. The situation leaves almost no one satisfied. The tough, rainless season keeps the iguana population in check. Out of options, they must wait for the next clumsy finches until the rains come in a few months. On Plaza Island, finches are the iguana's best friend. But on the Galapagos' most remote island, they play the villain. Hundreds of miles from the other islands, Wolf Island has very little vegetation and no drinking water. Not a problem for the Nazca boobies. They've adapted to find everything they need in the ocean. The island's isolation provides another advantage. Boobies are the unchallenged kings of wolf. Sounds like paradise. But for a little finch with a ghoulish appetite. She's a bloodsucker. The razor-sharp beak of the vampire finch can pierce the skin with surgical precision. Its ancestors probably started out pecking for parasites, drew blood, and developed a taste for it. A victim barely notices. The skillful finch minimizes the bleeding to prevent the boobie from bolting. And she's persistent. One thirsty vampire finch is almost tolerable if she doesn't overstay her welcome. Or draw a crowd. The finches need to take turns or their lunch will fly off. But not everyone's willing to wait. Eventually, their host has had enough. Get off my back. For boobies and finches, life on this island paradise comes at a cost. Neither resident has to worry about predators or even competitors. But the vampire finch owes its life to the long-suffering boobies, and the boobies have to be willing to shed a little blood now and then. It's a small price to pay to live in Wolf Island's peculiar, peaceable kingdom. It's not so different for the giant tortoise. He also pays a price for the promise of a paradise. As he negotiates his way out of the dry forest and into the greenery, he's still not quite out of the woods. His shell is burdensome. The vines are oppressive. Every step is an effort on this island that both protects him and torments him as he pursues his singular goal. While the Galapagos Islands hold many inhabitants hostage, these sea lions stay here voluntarily. Around 2 million years ago, a couple of Californian sea lions lost their way and ended up on the island. They stayed here, multiplied, and their descendants became a new species. The Galapagos sea lion, the smallest in the world. When the ocean water turns cold, it's time to care for the offspring. This little one is only a few days old, but already very agile. She'll need to hunt every couple of days to ensure she has enough milk for her baby. It means she has to leave the pup behind. The little one, with no one to play with, hopes to make new friends among his fellow sea lions. But they apparently have enough friends already. Once a female realizes he's not her baby, she wants nothing to do with him. The bewildered pup beats a retreat. Without his mother, he's completely on his own. When will she be back? On a different shore, a male cormorant uses this time of ocean abundance to start a family. He begins with nest building. And the lovebirds first spat. They disagree on the decorating. It's a common problem. The neighbors argue over where to place the bone. With all furnishing questions solved, they move on to family planning. neighbors' ideas. Cormorants don't mate for life. After the female lays her eggs, she won't stick around for long. The father will have to raise the chicks on his own. He doesn't yet know how difficult things will get. But meeting the challenge of raising the next generation is what brings stability and change. And that includes the oldest inhabitants. After days of traveling through the brittle forest, the male tortoise finally reaches his destination. A glistening lagoon. He'll spend the night sleeping in a pool. When he wakes the next morning, it's easy to see why the Galapagos giant tortoises go to such great efforts to migrate. He's arrived at a dense forest of Scalesia trees, where the vegetation soaks up water like a sponge and blankets the extinct volcanic craters. The forest remains the only oasis on these islands, a gift from the cold ocean current. While it sends the lowlands into a drought, it brings life to the highlands. It is the season of the garua, a moist, persistent mist. Up here is where the Galapagos giant tortoises find their paradise. After their long trip, many are exhausted. The male enjoys the tender greenery. But he didn't come here just to eat a salad. He's here for her. He's following the footsteps of his ancestors. For millennia, they've made the same arduous annual trek to mate in these lush highlands. But escaping to better conditions is only an option on the archipelago's younger islands. Here, big differences in altitude create a variety of habitats. The older islands have lost their volcanic mountains and have no lush highland for animals to migrate to. The giant tortoise on Hispaniola Island had to compensate somehow. To reach more leaves, it learned to really stick its neck out. The shell evolved a curve to give the reptile more freedom to move. The saddle-shaped shell, Galapagos in Old Spanish, gives the tortoise and the islands its name. Though the tortoise goes to great lengths to eat, once the leaves are gone, he's out of luck. He'll have to wait for new growth. On the beach, the sea lion pup is tired of waiting. His mother has been gone for days. Starved for milk, he's growing weak. She'd better get back soon. That's not his mother. It's the alpha male of the herd. He controls a harem of around a dozen females. As sea lions go, that's not very impressive. In his ancestral home in California, he might guard twice that many. But here on the Galapagos, life is more laid back, even by California standards. And like his California cousins, there's always time to catch a little surf action. But look out. The male is hardly gone before a beach bully rolls in. An outside male who wants to take his harem. The drama's caught the little guy's interest. And the harem leader's attention. Not on his watch. The reigning male kicks sand in the bully's face and sends him packing. These battles happen from time to time on the Galapagos. But fights like this break out dozens of times a day in California. The alpha bull enjoys his victory. The starving pup, no longer distracted, has reached his limit. Is that his mother? Yes. But how to catch her attention? He summons his last ounce of strength. Life is tough everywhere, but the Galapagos sea lions have found their paradise here. Unlike many inhabitants, they could leave at any time, but they don't. In this remote place, they face less competition and have more time to bask on the beach. Elsewhere on the Galapagos, the cormorant chicks are coming of age. They've spent weeks in their nest, slurping down free meals. As of today, those days are done. Mother left to start a new family, leaving Dad to push the chicks into the real world. The older chicks have gathered by the water. For them, it's not a question of learning to fly, but rather figuring out how to swim and dive. The father starts the lesson. From now on, he'll only serve food in the water, forcing the chick to swim. It's like riding a bike. Keep moving your legs. Easier said than done. Instinct tells them to flap their useless wings. Dad's not happy and withholds the fish. But the chick really wants it. And he's not the only one. A magnificent frigate bird. These pirates of the air can't swim or dive. They steal most of their food. A tough lesson for the young, hungry chick. Second attempt. Fathers have only a few weeks to train their chicks. Growing up in the Galapagos is tough. In fact, so tough, only around 1,000 of these cormorants exist. Conditions here can only sustain a small population of many animals, even underwater. Tropical islands are normally bejeweled with corals. Not on Galapagos. Only small reef oases exist here. The water is just too cold. A challenge for coral connoisseurs. The guinea fowl boxfish. It uses its strong teeth to break open small pieces and eat the algae that grows inside the coral. And in the process, leaves the coral with a carpet of scars. It's the only food the boxfish eat. So this reef dweller is found in very few locations across the Galapagos. The little coral gardens are its gilded cage. The vampire finches are also prisoners of paradise. And though they eat only blood, once a year, they make an exception. Eggs are on the menu. A booby has left its clutch. how to open one. The finch's fine, flesh-piercing beak is useless here. The wily bird hatches a plan. Her efforts quickly draw the hungry neighbors. The finches will fight to the last drop. On this island with no water to drink, a juicy egg is a golden treasure. The vampire finches are no different from so many other inhabitants of the Galapagos Islands. Thrown here by fate, facing a slim chance of survival in this remote part of the world, they made the best of it by adapting. The result is a thriving Galapagos. A small but vibrant and peculiar paradise. A testament to the great power of evolution.